A newlywed couple just days shy of their first wedding anniversary is mysteriously found dead inside their car in the middle of traffic. How did this happen? We're breaking down what we know so far and where police say the investigation stands now. This is Inside the Crime, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Elizabeth Millner. There's so much mystery surrounding this case, and it seems like from what we know now, police have very little to go off of. Meaning right now, no suspects, no arrests, no charges, and no persons of interest. But how did this couple end up dead with gunshot wounds in their car? Rachel and Brandon Dumovich appeared like a loving couple. The two got married just last year. According to TheKnot.com, Rachel and Brandon were middle school sweethearts. Rachel wrote under the Our Story section, "Brandon and I met in middle school at 12 years old. I caught Brandon's attention by stealing cologne from his locker and running away with it. After keeping in touch through many life stages and 15 years of friendship, we started dating in 2022. Brandon proposed last summer at Big Cedar in Slinger, Wisconsin, where I made many of my favorite childhood memories at my grandparents' now parents' home. This special location will also be our wedding venue. We can't wait to share the next chapter of our love story surrounded by our friends and family." Their next chapter together appeared so bright, too. The couple got married on October 12th of last year. According to social media posts, the two went on their honeymoon in Greece, and from there it appeared their married life together was just getting started. Rachel even posting this message on her Facebook: "Forever chasing sunsets, wishing we were back in Greece." What's eerie about that post is it would end up being her final post ever. Just hours after that message, she and Brandon were both dead. Here's what police say happened. According to the Harvard Police Department, on October 6th, just before midnight, one of their officers saw a parked car near Route 14. The hazard lights to the car were on, and when the officer approached the car to see if the driver needed help or assistance, that's when the officer discovered both people in the car were dead. According to police, a 29-year-old woman was driving with a 30-year-old passenger. The woman was later ID'd as Rachel, and the man was ID'd as Brandon. Police say both Brandon and Rachel sustained gunshot wounds, and a firearm was even recovered from the car. Was there a killer on the loose? Was this an isolated incident? According to Harvard PD, they did order a shelter in place, but then they later dismissed it because there was no ongoing threat to the community. So you have a young couple dead in their car, they both have gunshot wounds, their car had its hazards on, but there's still no cause of death. It makes anyone wonder, was this possibly an attempted carjacking gone wrong? Were they murdered? We just don't know. But with their deaths leaving the Harvard, Illinois community stunned, it hasn't stopped some from speculating what happened. Both Brandon and Rachel's obituaries paint them as loving individuals. We learned through Brandon's obituary he died a day after celebrating his 30th birthday. It read in part, quote, "Brandon brought life and laughter into the lives of those around from the very beginning. Brandon proudly served his country as a petty officer in the United States Navy. His time in the military reflected his deep commitment to service and his enduring passion for helping others, a quality that remained central throughout his life. A man of many interests and boundless energy, Brandon found joy in all things motorized. Whether he was RC flying through open skies, boating across tranquil waters, snowmobiling through winter trails, or heading out for a day of fishing or hunting, he embraced every adventure with enthusiasm and skill. His love for animals was unwavering and spoke to his compassionate nature. Brandon's infectious smile and sharp sense of humor had a way of lighting up any room. He had an extraordinary ability to lift spirits and bring people together. Family was always at the heart of everything he did. It was his anchor and greatest source of pride." Meanwhile, Rachel's obituary reads in part, quote, "Rachel graduated from Crystal Lake South High School in 2014, where she was a proud two-sport varsity athlete in cheerleading and track. She went on to earn her Bachelor of Business Administration cum laude from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in 2018, consistently achieving Dean's List honors each semester. While in college, she volunteered as a big sister and mentor with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Metro Milwaukee, reflecting her lifelong dedication to helping others. Known for her drive, ambition, and passion, Rachel was a natural connector, advocate, and loyal friend. She had a strong sense of empathy, compassion, social justice, and fair play, always championing those who needed a voice. With her exuberant spirit, quick wit, and unfiltered humor, she brought energy and laughter to every room she entered. Rachel loved her friends, family, traveling, fashion, decorating, cooking, and especially life at the lake. Police maintain their deaths are still an open and active investigation, so we could soon learn more about what happened to Brandon and Rachel very soon. You know, there's a reason Law&Crime is the go-to spot for all legal and true crime content on YouTube. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest personal injury law firm. They're a firm with more than 1,000 attorneys, and that's because they win a lot. They recovered over $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million, 40 times the insurer's $650,000 offer. Another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. Even if you think your case isn't worth millions, why not start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy, you can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/insidethecrime by clicking the link below or scanning the QR code on your screen. With so much mystery kind of surrounding this case, I'm joined now by retired Detective Commander Will Svilar. Will, thank you so much for joining me today. What's your reaction to this case? You have a young couple, they're dead in their car, they both have gunshot wounds, but what are your thoughts on what we know so far?
Well, they're being really tight-lipped on cause of death right now, but there are some things that are kind of lean you in a certain direction by what they did release. What they did release is they have gunshot wounds and a weapons recovered in the car, and there is no threat to the public. So that kind of leads you in a direction that whatever happened in that car happened in that car, not from an outside source.
So none of you, or there's no possibility that you think that this might be a carjacking gone wrong or maybe an armed robbery type of thing?
No, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that tells me that that didn't happen is, again, what the police have released, and also they're on the side of the road with the hazards on.
Yeah.
Typically, you don't put your hazards on the side of the road if you're in the middle of being robbed or something like that.
Yeah, which is just like devastating to me. And I'm thinking just in terms of what police say, in terms of where everyone was seated in the car, that just being Rachel and Brandon from what we know, Rachel being in the driver's seat and Brandon being in the passenger seat. It's just before midnight. Again, they were found dead last week, but where do you think police are in the investigation now?
So your crime scene's the car. I'm sure they've gone through the crime scene of the car, and also the ME's report is going to be huge because now you're talking about, is it contact wounds? Where is the wound on the body? And it said wound, but it didn't say where in the reports. So is it multiple gunshot wounds for one and one for the other, or one each? Is it a possibility somebody was in the back seat? These are all things that forensically they're going to have to figure out.
Yeah, because I know when we first learned about this case, we thought, okay, well, maybe something mysterious happened, and I thought there might be another person involved, maybe a carjacking type of situation. But then you have that whole big aspect, that being the firearm still found inside the car. How important is that firearm and all the tests that detectives are going to run on it? How important is that forensic evidence going to be whenever they get their conclusion from it?
It is the evidence. The firearm is going to be the evidence in the case, if it is, in fact, the weapon that killed him. You're going to have to take the projectiles and go against, you're going to have to test fire the weapon. It takes a few days to do these things, but it's a tool mark thing. So once they have the weapon, they fire the weapon, and they recover the projectiles if they are recoverable and usable from the victims or the casings in the car, if in fact it was a semi-automatic. It doesn't take long to link the gun to the ballistic evidence. So that's going to be huge. That's the whole case.
And I know emotions are running very high in this case. It happened just last week, but I'm interested in knowing your thoughts on just the whole possibility of this being a murder-suicide. I kind of find it hard to believe only because they were about to celebrate their first wedding anniversary. It was the day after Brandon's birthday. They've known each other since middle school. No one has come out saying that there was abuse within their marriage or anything like that so far from what we know, but what do you think?
I think that, and again, is it a murder-suicide? Is it a suicide pact? If it's either one of those, what difference does it make? Both of these poor kids are dead.
Yeah.
It is very curious that it happens within a year of marriage. Now, they've known each other for years. They dated for years, and all of a sudden within a year of marriage. But one thing my father told me a long time ago is you never want to trade places with anyone because we really have no idea what's going on in somebody else's life. So it's just, you don't know what's going on. Things can go bad. Who knows financially, but you just never know what's going on in someone's life.
Right. And I try to err on the side of optimism. And I know we work at Law&Crime, and I try to think like, there is hope that this is just what it is, just a beautiful couple. They're young. Something terrible must have happened to them, but not thinking that something possibly even worse, like a murder suicide, could also be that possibility. And I'm curious, do you think it's too much to read into that neither Rachel nor Brandon's obituary mention the other in it, especially since they were newlyweds, especially since they were both found dead together?
Yeah, that's really weird. And you got to, who did the obituary? Now, if there's, like you said, if there's an exclusion between the two on both sides of the families, somebody should be coming forward, or if they haven't already, spoken to law enforcement about possible problems. So if you, like you said, that's kind of really weird that they're not going to mention beloved wife, beloved husband in either obituary. So, I mean, it would suggest that maybe there was something going on, and that was something the police will have to talk to the families about.
And in terms of just reconstructing this type of event that happened inside a car, from what we know so far, from what police are telling us publicly, how does it go in order to reconstruct possibly what happened? Because I'm thinking in terms of where police say both were positioned, Rachel in the driver's seat, Brandon in the passenger seat. How do they go about determining if it is a murder-suicide, who shot who, and how that all works?
Well, again, you're going to look at the forensic evidence, the gunshot residue test on both of their hands and both of their arms and their clothing that they're wearing would indicate who's firing the weapon. You're going to look at where the wounds are in the body. Huge part of it is where the wounds are in the body. Side of the head, front of the head, chest. We don't know. And then, is there somebody in the back seat? Could you prove something back there? You're going to do gunshot residue on the headrest in the back. You're going to do all of those things. You're going to do, they have rods where they'll conduct which way the trajectory of the rounds went. Is there damage? Is there damage to the inside of the car? Is there damage from the outside in or inside out? These are all things that the car is that's a crime scene, and it's contained, and they should be able to get what they need out of it.
And let's talk the possibility that this could have been a fatal carjacking. How do investigators kind of work that if that were to be the scenario?
Well, now you got to start backtracking. You got to figure out where were they? Where were they going? Where were they coming from? Did they make any stops? Is there any video? Is there any kind of, ring cameras in here? I think it was a pretty rural area over there in Harvard, Illinois. But speed light, or stoplight cameras, speed cameras, anything you can do to trace what whether they were going or where they came from. Their movements are critical. And again, you'd see evidence on the side of the road if there was another vehicle involved. But if it is that, you have to backtrack and you have to start, looking for any kind of clues. You got to canvass if there's anything to canvass around there. Did anybody hear gunshots? So it becomes footwork.
And I know like a lot of people have kind of the CSI theory when it comes to solving a crime, that it happens so quickly. But I'm curious, if it was a murder-suicide, why don't police just come right out and say that that's a possibility that they're looking into? Why do you think investigators have been so tight-lipped about this?
Well, you have to wait for the ME's report. Now, typically that happens at the time of the post. In this case, I would suspect gunshot wound homicide or gunshot wound suicide. But it also might be gunshot wound as a cause of death, but the manner of death is going to be pending police investigation, where the ME won't sign off on it as one thing or the other until the police do a little bit more work. And that could be processing the inside of the car, linking the weapon to the incident, and then maybe you're going to get more.
Now, say again, and I hate to say this, especially since police haven't come out and said this, or confirmed it, I should say. Say this is a murder or suicide. Do you think that the families could get any form of justice when you have a case like that?
You talk about from a police standpoint, and again, we don't know if this is what happened. I don't want to sound callous, but if you get a murder suicide, it's a pretty easy case to clear if you're talking about straight clearances. You'll never get justice or make sense out of it from a family member who's, one side or the other. Why did this person take this person's life and then their own? There's no justice in that. There's no prosecution, in a case like a murder suicide. So it's, for police, it's a pretty easy case to sew up, provided all the evidence is there. But for the families, there is no justice in something like this.
And it's just horrible because now both young lives are now gone. And I'm sure there's a lot of questions that need to be answered right now. Will Spieler, what do you think is going to happen in the future? When do you think investigators are just going to come out and say, okay, we know what happened. This is what happened. Do you think it could be this week, next month? When do you think that could happen?
I think it'd be this week, unless they're waiting on toxicology or something like that. And that toxicology is going to be part of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean the determining a factor of cause and manner. I think they're going to get the evidence back from the car. I think they're going to meet again with the medical examiner, and then I think we'll have our answers. And I believe it'll be this week, probably.
And hopefully the families can make some sort of sense of both of this, because it's just a horrible case overall, very tragic case. I want to thank you, Will, so much for your insight into this case. I really appreciate your time today.
My pleasure.
As of this recording, police haven't publicly revealed if this is a murder investigation or if there's a persons of interest. Again, it is an open and active investigation, and anyone with information is asked to call or contact the Harvard Police Department in Illinois. That does it for this episode. Be sure to check out more episodes on the Law and Crime YouTube channel. I'm Elizabeth Millner, and this has been Inside the Crime.